get ready for our next episode about Alexander the Great. This time, we're diving into his epic chase of King Darius. It's gonna be a wild ride. The relentless pursuit by Alexander had driven Darius III to the brink. But it was not the Macedonian spear that ended his life. In July 330 BCE, near Hecatompylos, the fugitive great king was betrayed and murdered by his own treacherous satraps, led by Bessus of Bactria. Alexander arrived too late to capture Darius alive, finding instead the poignant scene of a fallen monarch. This act of regicide marked the definitive end of the Achaemenid dynasty and presented Alexander with a new challenge. The hunt for the usurper, the summer of 330 BCE, witnessed the tragic final chapter in the life of Darius III, Codomanus, the last Achaemenid great king. Following his flight from Ecbatana, with Alexander the Great in hot pursuit, Darius's authority had crumbled, and his small band of followers was racked by desperation and dissent. His ultimate fate would be sealed not by his Macedonian adversary, but by the treachery of his own inner circle. As Darius retreated eastward through Media and Parthia, aiming for the relative safety of Bactria, his most powerful remaining satraps, Bessus of Bactria, Barcentus of Arachosia and Drangiana, and Satybarzanes of Aria, along with Nabarzanes, a high-ranking cavalry commander, increasingly viewed him as a liability. Darius had lost every major battle, abandoned his capitals, and seemed incapable of rallying effective resistance against Alexander's relentless advance. These nobles, particularly Bessus, who was a kinsman of Darius and harbored royal ambitions of his own, began to conspire against him. Their motives were likely mixed. Some may have genuinely believed that a change in leadership was necessary to continue the fight against Alexander. Others may have hoped to curry favor with the Macedonian conqueror by handing over Darius. Bessus undoubtedly saw an opportunity to seize the Persian throne for himself. The loyal contingent of Greek mercenaries under patron of Phocis, and the elderly Persian noble Artabazus with his sons, became aware of the growing conspiracy. They warned Darius of the danger and urged him to entrust his personal safety to the Greeks, who were still loyal and capable of defending him. Darius, however, was hesitant. He was reluctant to appear to distrust his own Persian kinsmen and nobles. Or perhaps he underestimated the depth of their treachery, or simply felt powerless to prevent it. This indecision proved fatal, as Alexander's pursuit intensified. With his elite cavalry detachments pushing ever closer, the conspirators decided to act. They seized Darius, placed him under arrest, and bound him with golden fetters, a macabre concession to his royal status, even in betrayal. He was then put into a covered wagon, and the conspirators, now effectively in command of the dwindling Persian column, continued their flight, dragging their captive king with them. Their plan was either to use Darius as a bargaining chip with Alexander if he caught up, or, if they managed to reach Bactria, Bessus would likely dispose of Darius and assume the royal title himself. Patron and his Greek mercenaries, refusing to be part of this regicide, separated from the main group, as did Artabazus, profoundly disgusted by the betrayal. Alexander, receiving intelligence from deserters about Darius's arrest and the route of the conspirators, was determined to save his royal adversary from this ignominious fate, or at least to capture him alive. A living Darius, under his control, would be a powerful symbol of his victory, and could facilitate the submission of the remaining parts of the empire. He selected his best and fittest troops, mainly cavalry, and embarked on a final, desperate forced march, covering enormous distances with incredible speed, often riding through the night. Near the city of Hecatompylos in Parthia, Alexander's vanguard finally caught sight of the rear of the fleeing Persian column. The conspirators, realizing that Alexander was upon them and that they could not escape with their royal prisoner, were thrown into a panic. Their initial plan to hand Darius over to Alexander was now impossible if they wished to save themselves. They tried to persuade Darius to mount a horse and flee with them. When Darius refused, either out of a sense of royal dignity, despair, or simply because he was too weakened by his ordeal, Bessus and his associates, Satybarzanes and Barcentes, in a fit of brutal expediency, stabbed the bound king multiple times with their javelins and daggers. They then abandoned him, dying in his wagon, and scattered in different directions, Bessus and his Bactrian contingent heading towards Bactria. Alexander and his men arrived on the scene only moments later. The accounts of Darius's final moments vary slightly. Plutarch tells a poignant story of a Macedonian soldier named Polystratus, who, parched from the pursuit, was looking for water and discovered the wagon with the dying king. Darius, also suffering from thirst, asked for water. After Polystratus gave him a drink, Darius reportedly lamented his misfortunes, but expressed gratitude for Alexander's honorable treatment of his mother, wife, and children, a clemency he could not repay, but for which he prayed the gods would reward Alexander. He is said to have given his hand to Polystratus as a pledge of friendship to Alexander, and then expired. Arrian's account, based on Ptolemy, is more succinct, stating that Darius was already dead when Alexander arrived. Regardless of whether Darius was still breathing, Alexander, upon seeing the body of his great rival, was reportedly visibly moved. He removed his own cloak and spread it over Darius's corpse, a gesture of respect for a fallen king. He was said to be angered by the treacherous manner of Darius's death and vowed to avenge it. The death of Darius III, in July 330 BCE, marked the definitive end of the Achaemenid dynasty, which had ruled a vast empire for over 220 years. While his reign had been marked by military disaster against Alexander, his murder by his own subjects added a layer of tragedy to his fall. For Alexander, Darius's death presented both an opportunity and a new set of challenges. With the legitimate Achaemenid king gone, Alexander could more convincingly present himself as the rightful successor to the Persian throne. He ordered that Darius's body be treated with full royal honors, embalmed, and sent back to Persepolis or perhaps Pasargadae to be buried with his royal ancestors in a magnificent funeral, a politically astute act designed to win favor with the Persian nobility and populace. However, Darius's murder also meant that Alexander's war was not entirely over. Bessus, the chief regicide, had escaped to Bactria and promptly proclaimed himself the new great king. Taking the royal name Artaxerxes V, Alexander now had a new target, the usurper Bessus. The hunt for Darius was over, but the hunt for Bessus, and the arduous task of conquering the vast, remote, and rebellious eastern satrapies of the former Persian Empire was about to begin. The end of one era was merely the prelude to another phase of Alexander's relentless conquests. Loved having you here for this vlog. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way.